made 160 grand. Your second 4-month season of doing sales. How did you get into this?
Born and raised in Liberty, Missouri. Started working in a factory, 45, 50,000 a year. Still dating my high school sweetheart. We got married. I knew that I was going to immediately have to provide for not only myself, but my family. The turning point for me was I knew that I was working harder than anyone out there, but I was still making just the same as them, or if not less, because I'd been there less time. I ended up going with Isaac and with Moxie because not only the core values, but just who Isaac was as a person. I was really enticed by someone that was going to help me to become the best version of myself. The second that I'd signed the paper, yeah, I'm going to do this, I was all in. Making that decision to be all in was why I succeeded my first summer and why I'm succeeding now.
What's up, you guys? Thanks for tuning in to the Purpose Driven Persuasion podcast, where if you're a highly ambitious person, you're going to learn how to go from being unfocused to unstoppable, and specifically by applying the tactics, strategies, and learning from the results of persuasion and influence demonstrated at a high level. What that means for you is by applying the things we talk about in this podcast of sales skills or persuasion and influence, you can become the most persuasive, influential, and impactful version of yourself and better serve the people around you that you love and care about the most. I'm your host, Hayden Schaap. For the last 10 years, I've obsessively tried to learn, apply, and teach these skills of persuasion and influence at the highest level, and have seen incredible results in my own life and the people that we've worked with. And that's what we're talking about. Give us a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on all of the audio platforms as well. Make sure you follow for more. If you get some value out of this, I'd really appreciate if you shared it with somebody else as well, because I think a lot of people could benefit. Enjoy the episode, guys. All right, we've got Isaac Smith on the pod again, as well as Spencer Goff, which we've been long anticipating getting your story live in the actual studio. So yeah, let's just kick this off. We've got like 35, 40 minutes, if it's a good amount of time for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself to us, Spencer? Where are you from? Give us a little bit background of like how you got into sales and how you're introduced to Moxie. And then this last summer, I just want to maybe set the stage. How much did you make this last summer, if you don't mind me asking?
Just over 150,
nice.
160.
160K.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick.
That's it's second year doing this.
Yeah.
Your second 4-month season of doing sales, and you made 160 grand. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So can you set the stage for us? Like, how did you get into this then?
Yeah. So I mean, born and raised in Liberty, Missouri. I never thought I would be getting into pest control sales, but I got back from my mission. It was like November 2019, right before COVID.
Okay.
5 days later, I literally started working in a factory, and I was still dating my high school sweetheart. We got married 3 months after the mission, or like the service trip that I went on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I knew that I was going to immediately have to provide for not only myself, but my family. So like I just got right into working. My family, everyone works in factories. That's kind of what we do. Missouri, there's lots of opportunities to do that. So that was just what I did. I didn't really think twice about it. And Isaac had reached out to me that first summer I got home, amongst like many other companies. Yeah. And I turned all of them down. I didn't want to get like, I don't know. I felt like I needed to do something secure, which I laugh at now. But
so the factory job was like, well, if my family's done this before, this is like it's a safe bet. It's secure.
Yeah, I was,
and it had like benefits, and I remember you saying that specifically. It was like, oh, I'm gonna have a kid, and we need like health insurance or whatever.
Yeah, so I came from this kind of humble background where most people worked in factories. I thought I was really secure, and I was making like 45, 50,000 a year right out of the mission. No college, so I was like feeling pretty good. And then I figured out we were gonna have a baby, so to add on top of the provider role, I knew I needed to just step up for them. So the benefits, the salary, like all of that was enticing enough to stay.
Yeah.
But I had no clue what was in store for me with sales. Like no idea the potential that it is. And
so you decided to not do it that first year then, because of like, okay, I'm having a kid now. It's really important that I'm doing something secure and maybe long-term has some benefits too, or something along those lines. Yeah. And so you turned Isaac down amidst all the other companies that were recruiting you to do sales.
Yeah. The turning point for me was I knew that I was working harder than anyone out there and around me at my job. Yeah. But I was still making just the same as them, or if not less, because I'd been there less time.
So it didn't matter how much harder you worked, it wasn't increasing your pay.
Yeah. And I knew I had so much more potential, and I knew that I wanted to just become better.
Yeah.
And not only better like who I am as a person, but financially, like I felt like I needed to provide more for my family,
Yeah.
for my newborn son. So, that wasn't something that I wanted to do long term.
Mm-hmm. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, did Isaac reach back out to you again, or did you?
No, dude, this is actually embarrassing.
So, yeah. So I was in kind of that mindset of I want to do something that will push myself and to where I can really show my true abilities and my natural talents, which at the time I didn't really know I had a whole lot, but now I have a lot of confidence that I do.
Yeah.
I saw a story of Isaac like singing. I think he was like singing on his Instagram story, and I was like, I'll reach back out to him. It was like what, November?
Yeah, I think it was like October,
November.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. So I reached back out to him, and then there were a few other people I had reached out to as well. And one of the guys I reached out to was like one of my best buddies. He was a groomsman at my wedding. And I ended up going with Isaac and with Moxie because not only the core values, but just who Isaac was as a person. I was really enticed by someone that was going to help me to become the best version of myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Okay. So you decide to go out and do it, like you committed. And from there, was there ever a doubt in your mind, like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to do this? Or like leading up to actually selling, was there ever like, okay, what happens if I fail sort of scenario in your head?
It's a good question.
So when I do something, I'm all in. So the second that I decided that I signed the paper, like, hey, I'm going to do this, I was all in.
Okay.
And making that decision to be all in was why I succeeded my first summer and why I'm succeeding now. Like,
because your first summer you made, how much did you make your first summer?
Like $100K.
Yeah. So you made 6 figures your first summer as a rookie of the year, and then made 160
Cue the
this
song.
year.
Yeah.
Cue the song. Yeah. Rookie of the year.
Yeah.
But okay, obviously that's fast. It's not just fascinating. Like, it's not surprising because I know you really well, but I almost feel foolish asking the question. Did you ever feel like, there was a point where you're like, oh, what if I fail? Because it is actually not your personality to even let those thoughts into your mind when you decide something. It's like last night when we were listening to Mike, the Navy SEAL, speak, and somebody asked him some ridiculous question about like quitting, and he's like, I don't understand. Like, next question. Quitting doesn't even register.
I heard that question like 3 or 4 times. Like, what's your biggest failure? It's like, what?
I don't understand. Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. Like, did you ever have a moment where you just thought you were going to quit? And he's like, no, never.
Like, no. Stupid
Next question. Anyway, so I feel a little sheepish for asking that, but what I'm trying to get at is, and you answered it perfectly, what I thought you would say is, it's like the determination once you decide something, that is the reason why you're as successful as you are.
It's so as soon as I started signing on, Isaac gave me some books, like recommended books. One was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Let's go.
By Stephen Covey. The other one was Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone.
Nice.
So something that I loved reading those books, like changed my paradigms and how I think about the world.
Yeah.
But something from Cardone, what he said is, I think it's something along the lines of like, your success in life will be limited by the amount of action you take. And then he goes on and talks about how like go massive or you're going to end up passive. Like,
oh yeah.
So like
very Grantism.
Yeah. So for me that hit home, and I was already kind of along those same lines of who I wanted to be. And I knew if I was going to succeed that I just needed to take massive action.
Oh, so how did that look before the summer then in preparation for getting ready to go succeed? Because you read that before the summer, right? Or was that during the summer that you read that?
It was probably like December, January.
Right after Isaac gave it to you.
Right as soon as he gave me stuff to do, I did it.
Yeah.
And I
did.
It's a consistent theme as well.
Yeah, I remember when I started training with Spencer, I like sent him a couple example videos of like my introduction or whatever. And he was one of the first few guys that was on my team. So I was like practicing myself on like how to train people, but I was just trying to act confident. But I just like sent him some example videos, and then because he was in a different state, he would send them back to me when he was like on his way to work in the mornings at like 5 a.m. his time.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time he sent me a video of his introduction that he'd been practicing. I was like scared. I was like, whoa, dude, that's like watching myself. It was like, but he just did it so perfectly.
Like modeled it perfectly.
And so like, I don't know, he just like, as soon as he signed on and committed, like you were saying, like he was just all in. And so that was really cool to see like the amount of effort that you're putting into it, and then your ability to like take what you were seeing and then just model it perfectly in your own way or your own personality, which was sick.
That like theme has been consistent for you in everything that you've done. And I'm seeing it now as like you're really killing it as a team leader. Okay, so keep going on that line of thinking though. What else were you doing to prepare?
Yeah, so it's funny because he got the videos, so he saw like the final effect of how it was, but it was hard. And I think leading up to the summer and preparing for that summer, every day I'd get to work, I would listen to modules in my AirPod. I had to keep one out.
To our the training on Moxie University.
Yeah, I listened to the trainings, but the crazy thing is I would like speak the script out loud, and all of my coworkers were like, man, you're crazy. You're going to be back here in like 2 weeks from the summer, like
predicting your failure.
You're not going to succeed. And
dude, like lobster, like crabs coming out of the pot trying to bring you back down.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I was just pulling you down.
Yeah, and I didn't hear any of it. I just was so focused on becoming the best version of myself, and I had a clear vision of who I wanted to become and how much money I needed to make for my family, and all of that led up to me making the decision. Obviously I made the decision day one to like be all in, but then all of the things after that, you know, the constant training, the constant script trainings, like I would just do everything I possibly could. And all the books that I read, I was never a reader, but you know, I realized that readers are leaders, so I needed to I needed to step up my game. Yeah, but just mentally preparing as well, knowing that it was going to be hard. Yeah. And then actually setting attainable goals and working with Isaac, my team leader, to make sure that I was setting goals that I could actually achieve. Cool. And then backing that by the action that I was going to take.
Yeah, I love it.
Someone asked me yesterday, I was talking to another guy, I think he just finished his first summer. He's like, oh, you've been doing this for a few years, like what's the thing you've seen most like first year team leaders fail at, or like what is the reason you would attribute to a lot of first year team leaders lack of success? Sure. And I just said like lack of commitment, lack of consistency. Like guys just don't realize what it takes, that you have to be doing something every single day. But that applies in the same way to like preparing for your first summer. Even too. Like if you want to do really well, I hear a lot of guys that come in and they're like, oh, I'm going to beat the records, I'm going to be the very best. But then like how many of those guys are willing to like actually go do what it takes? And I think Spencer's absolutely one of those people, right? I mean, he proved that he was. Like how did you live your life at that time to get ready for the summer? Like what were some of the things that you were doing every single day?
So I would wake up every day like 5 a.m. I would drive to work. On the way to work, I would listen to modules, record myself, send them to Isaac, get feedback.
Because you were working like 40 hours a week too, right? And you were in 12 credit hours at BYU online.
Yeah. So
you just had a newborn baby.
Yeah. So I was full-time school.
It was just like, and you just had anyone making you,
and you just got married.
So you like just got married. You got married. You have a kid. You're just studying full-time and working full-time, and still determined to prepare for this thing you decided to do that's pure commission.
Yeah, you're not even getting paid for it yet.
Yeah, you're not even getting paid for it yet.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was, I don't know. I had all the reasons to stop and all the reasons to make excuses to not go out and do the work. But I had determined that I was going to go and make something happen out of this. That I was the captain of my fate, like the master of my soul. That mentality of like, I need to take 100% responsibility and I need to own up to my actions, and that's how I'm going to succeed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I have a question about your mindset when you're preparing in that way. And I'll preface this by saying most successful people that I know, and I really relate to this personally, is that like I prepare when I really, really want to hit a goal. A lot of my preparation comes from like the fear of not hitting it. So like my determination, a big part of that determination is like, it's almost like I'm scared that if I don't do enough, that I'm not going to hit it. So I'm constantly trying to do more, what I think is enough, but more than that, because it's like, oh, I don't even know if this is enough. I've never achieved this goal before. Otherwise I wouldn't be setting it, you know?
Right.
So I never really know if I'm even doing enough to achieve the goal, which causes me to do more and more and more. And then that ends up making it so that I actually hit the goal, if not exceeding it. Do you view that the same in your mind? Is it like a fear of not hitting the goal is what drives you to put in the like massive action? Or is it more of like utter determination, and I know that these are the variables that need to line up, and I'm just going to do them perfectly? Does that make sense? Like the difference there? It's like fear of not hitting it versus I know what I need to do and I'm determined just to do it type of thing.
Yeah, I think both. I think I had huge fear, like, wow, I have to provide for my family. Like, if I don't make this happen, like, I won't have food on the table for my child. Like, that's the mentality that I had. But then that mentality was backed behind, I'm a very like analytical person. I like to think about the details, and I like to piece them together and figure out what's going to work for me so that I can go out and achieve what I want to.
So those lined up in your mind to say like, no, if I do these things, it's very likely that I'm going to achieve my goal because I'm committed, I'm determined. So like, I won't do it. Yeah.
For example, one thing I knew I needed to do before the summer is that I needed to finish everything on Moxie U.
Okay.
Like I needed to, and that was me, you know, not everyone maybe like that. For me, I had to develop, or I had to get all of the trainings in my mind so that I knew I was 100% ready to go. Like there wasn't anything that I was missing. I had zero experience in sales. I had like zero experience with the job. You know, I had just listened to Isaac. We barely knew each other.
Yeah.
But I had trusted him enough. And he said like, look, man, if you're all in this, like you can do really well. And so I trusted the process. I trusted what Moxie provided to me. And I just went out and applied it.
Yeah, and lo and behold, and I even remember being in Atlanta with you that summer, people would be like, oh, I wish I was as like charismatic as Spencer, or I wish it was easy for me to talk to people like it is Spencer. And like, okay, like fundamentally you're missing something because you just didn't prepare the way Spencer did.
Right.
Like, yeah, maybe you have some sort of natural ability to connect with people, which I would argue that you do because you're a genuine person. But like everybody kind of has an ability to do that. It's not like unique just to you. What's unique about you is the choices that you made to become the type of person who was able to succeed as well as you did. And those are all controllable, you know, not to take anything away from how special you are as a person, or any of us are, but like really how well we do is just a function of our choices and nothing more than that.
Yeah, and although some people might have like innate abilities or like natural tendencies, like everything is a skill set that you can learn.
Everything.
And improve at and get really good at and become even better at than the people who are just naturally talented.
Yes.
Because like those are the people like Spencer, right? He's like one of the hardest workers I know. So he's going to like outwork most people besides me. And no, but like he'll actually become better at certain skills because he actually put in a lot of time and effort into doing that, rather than the person who is just naturally good at it.
Yeah.
And doesn't really do a lot and actually becomes like a little bit lazy.
Yeah, because they feel like they're naturally good and they can just coast on their talent or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think one example, like in high school, I was not very smart. Like I've never been super smart, so I claim. I've never been good at reading, any of that. But I had a goal freshman year, like, hey, I'm going to be valedictorian. 4.0, like I'm gonna make it happen. And I wasn't the most talented at all by any means, but I outworked everyone, and I achieved what I set out to achieve at the beginning of my freshman year.
That's awesome.
Senior year was awesome, like to see, and that's just who I am. Like if I set my mind to something, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. What do you do then when you like you set your mind to something and it's maybe harder than you expected? How do you handle that in your preparation? Or even while you're trying to achieve a goal? Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yeah. I mean, I've failed so many times.
That's like almost an obvious answer, but I mean, you're very good at everything you do. So,
well, I think one like principle that comes to mind, I think this comes from Covey. He talks about like our most difficult experiences, they actually become our crucibles that forge our character and help us to like develop internal powers and internal confidence. So for me, I don't see like my failures as like failures. I see them as opportunities.
Yeah.
Like those are some of my most difficult experiences, failing. I hate it. But because those things have happened over and over again, because I have those difficult experiences, those have been like the crucibles. Those have been the things that have changed my character. And I think because of that, I'm learning that those changes, those crucibles in me and in my character have helped me to be able to help others, to inspire others to become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah. And this is the very things that make you relatable to other people's struggles too, right? It's like the more you acknowledge where it's difficult for you to succeed and where you've had failures in the past that you overcame, that's all of those things make it so you can relate to people who have similar struggles and failures too, and then therefore help them through them. So when I was 21 years old, I had big dreams of a few things. Becoming a millionaire by the time I was 30, that was a big goal of mine. I wanted to own my own business, and I wanted to create financial freedom through investing in real estate, startups, any other type of vehicle that would give me passive income so that I could really provide for my family and my parents in a significant way because of how much they sacrificed for me growing up. I didn't grow up in the most well-off household, and so I really wanted to create a life for my family that they could be comfortable. I'm a grandchild of immigrants, and I had a lot of people in my life that came before me that have sacrificed a ton to create the good things that I have. I wanted to create financial freedom so that I could give back and serve significantly. I thought I was going to do that by, first off, playing football in the NFL. I obsessed over football growing up, but then I quickly got cut from my college team upon arriving, basically. So then I thought I was going to do that by getting into a prominent business school and excelling there, and then, getting a high-paying job out of college. And I didn't get into any of the business schools that I applied for, and there were more than one. So I had some, learning disabilities and a couple other things that felt like held me back in that way. Bottom line, it just didn't work. So after all the failed attempts to make money and try to achieve my dreams early, I was basically desperate and just really didn't think that it would all work out. I was doing a bunch of these hourly jobs and barely making ends meet and donating plasma, all the things you do when you're a poor college kid. I had a friend approach me and say that he had made $50,000 doing a sales job during the summer in between semesters. And he was a really well-known and highly prominent athlete. I had grown up hearing about how good he was at football. And so we became friends after I got home from a mission for my church. I just trusted him. So I looked into it. I ended up doing this sales job thinking that it would just be a better way to hold me over while I really figured out how I was going to provide financially for my family and really make a big dent in my dreams. Fast forward a few years later, I was with the same company doing that job over and over again while I was going to school, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now coaching and teaching other people how to do the same thing. It completely changed my life in a way that I did not expect, learning how to persuade and influence people at a high level because you practice that day in and day out. That translated over into every other relationship and aspect of my life that I care more about than just sales. And then obviously financially being able to get well ahead of all of my peers and the other people who were not willing to make those sacrifices of doing that sales job during the summer in the off months of school. And then fast forward even more ahead, I was able to become a millionaire by 26 and have a multiple $1 million net worth by the time I was 30, upwards of $10 million plus, and invest in real estate early on in my 20s, be able to give back and help pay for mission trips and do service opportunities that I just otherwise wouldn't have had. But what I'm most proud of is being able to give my family, my parents, my wife, my immediate family the life that they just really never had growing up. Because I think deep down we all want to be the type of people that when all is said and done, we actually have made a difference in other people's lives. And I feel like that's actually really the deep result of what this job ended up doing for me in a way that I just did not expect. Long story short, I'm obsessed with teaching the same things to other people. And since I have gotten to management and now I'm a partner in our company, I've been able to work with upwards of over 1,000 sales reps who are young, ambitious, college-age kids mostly, who start doing this job just to pay for school, but end up finding out that it's highly impactful for every other aspect of their life. So right now we are hiring and we have limited spots available to take on of people. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description of this video or in my bio. You can check that out, apply and see if you're a good fit or a candidate for this job. We have personality profiles that can match you with income and earning potential that is very much historically accurate of people that have gone in our program before. And if you take the leap of faith and at least learn about whether this could be a good fit for you, I think you're going to be not only really impressed, but if your results are even half as good as what everyone else has gone through this program has experienced, the only problem that you'll have is that 1, you didn't know about this sooner, and 2, that you didn't sign up and try to do it yesterday. All right, so give it a shot. Check out the link in my bio, and I'll see you guys in the rest of the episode.
So I think a lot of people think that like you can't be a nice or good person and be really good at sales. Like a lot of people, at least I think there's this stereotype that exists that you have to be like kind of an alpha or like kind of a jerk to be good at this job. But Spencer is like not that. He's in fact like the opposite, where he's like really empathetic and cares a lot about every single person and individual, whether they're on his team or they're like somebody he's selling to. And so I just wonder, I want to ask, like, how do you use that to your strengths, or how do you use that to your advantage to go out and be successful as a sales rep and also as like a team leader or a team member?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think down to my core, something that I feel that I've been gifted with in this life is the ability to love, like genuinely love people. So, I mean, I like genuinely, when I talk to someone, I really care about that person.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking about like, okay, how am I going to outsmart this person? How am I going to outwit them? How am I going to sell them?
Yeah.
What I'm thinking
like work
about,
them over. It was like, you hear some sales reps say that, not any that work with us obviously, but like in the industry, they'll be like, oh, I just worked this person over, or like I like had my way with them, or something like along
Had
those
him in
lines.
the palm
Like
of my hand.
yeah, it's like I was like they're just like the puppet, you know, and I was pulling the strings. It's like, I don't know of a worse way that you could talk about people in a sales situation that just reveals how terrible of a person you are if that's how you view people, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's really just the mentality of like, I genuinely love this person, even if I haven't met them. It's just something that I feel that I've been gifted with, honestly. And because of that, I've tried my darndest to just continue that mentality and just to show people just how much I really care about them.
That's cool.
I think, and then something as well in my mission statement, like my personal mission statement, I have the phrase like, be quick to observe and learn from others. So
that's cool.
I love learning from others. Like I've learned so many things from you guys, but I apply that to everyone I meet. So even if it's some random stranger on the door, like, or it's someone that I'm bringing onto my team, I know that they're a valuable asset to me, and maybe I just have to find out why.
You genuinely care about everyone you talk to, and so therefore you're showing interest in them, like real true interest in them as a person. And that's one of the easy key ways to not be a pushy sales rep and to get sales. Like you can actually really care about people and really want to serve them, and that's actually the highest version of sales, I think.
Yeah,
it's huge. That's big, dude. Quick to observe. So do you feel like that aspect is what makes you just very interested in people in general, and that they can feel that as you're interacting with them?
I'd say that. Yeah, I like genuinely like want to know about the people I talk to, and I really care about them. So having that in my mission statement of like, be quick to observe in everything you do, that applies to negative things as well. So if I meet people that I'm seeing are doing bad things, then I'm quick to observe those things and I don't want to do them.
Yeah.
And I take like a mental note of like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I don't say that to them, but obviously I take mental notes of how I can become the best version of myself. And I do that by kind of analyzing, okay, this was good, I'm going to apply this. Or like, this was bad, I'm not going to do this.
So it helps you with like the self-awareness aspect, which then helps you progress quickly, because the more you can be self-aware of your weaknesses, the quicker you can change them and like get better, right?
Yeah, it's like the 7 habits. Like if you build your ladder on the wrong wall, like, and you don't make it on that wall, like you're going to the wrong place.
Yeah, it's what does he say? It's like if the jungle analogy as well, right? It's like a leader is able to say like, hey, we might be doing all of the right things in chopping down the trees and sharpening our saws and like all of the efficient ways to clear a forest, but what if you're in the wrong jungle? You know, no amount of working harder or more efficiently can change the fact that you're in the wrong place.
Right.
Interesting. That's cool. Okay, so what was the most difficult part? You made 6 figures your first summer, 160K your second. What was the most challenging thing you had to overcome in your rookie summer in order to achieve that high of an income in 4 months?
There's a lot of hard things about that. I think something that might be overlooked was my mentality, like my limiting beliefs that I had grown up with.
Oh, interesting.
I had to learn how to change my mentality.
Okay.
How I was raised, I love my parents. I love them to death, and they're incredible people. But how I was raised, I don't know if I always knew what it meant to look outside of the box and to seek more. So for me, that was really hard to like mentally go through this like limiting belief change and like change all of the things that I believed before, that in reality I figured out I could do way more, and like the sky was the limit.
And that like unlocked your potential. What were some of those limiting beliefs specifically that you had to overcome?
Man, there's
like success related, money related. I know for me personally, a lot of them were money. My perception of money in general. You know, it's just, you're gonna have a hard time making a lot of money if you think that making a lot of money means that you have to be a bad person or something, right?
Yeah. So like something I read from Cardone, he talks about some of the best sellers or some of the best spenders. So like I grew up like
spend money.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but I grew up like we saved every dime. Like I was working ever since I was like 13, 14.
Yeah.
And I would just save it. And I didn't have the mentality of like money is in abundance. Like there's an abundance mentality in the world, and I didn't have that.
Interesting.
So I had the mentality that everything was limited, and I needed to like limit my spending, limit my like intake of things. And like in some aspects, I think limiting intake is good of some things, but
yeah,
I didn't have an abundance mentality. So that was the biggest thing that it really took a while to figure out, like, and especially, you know, the first 3 weeks of the summer, when I realized in these last 3 weeks, I made more than like 2 months of working in a factory, probably more.
Dude, that's insane.
I was much more, because we were selling well like right off the bat.
Yeah. So for me, like figuring out in the first like 3 weeks of the summer, like I'm going to be making so much more money than I've ever thought possible in such a little time.
Yeah.
And for how young I am, like if this is the case, like what more is there out there? Like how much more can I do?
Wow. So really just you have this like standard raising experience where you make more money than you ever had in a short amount of time, and you're like, dang, like if I can do this in this little time, like what else could I do?
Yeah,
that's cool. That's awesome.
It's really cool.
And so a lot of those limiting beliefs that you had to overcome, did they revolve around like maybe scarcity mentality as a whole, like kind of a consistent theme that you had to fight against? And
yeah,
what did you do to overcome them? Or did it just happen because you had just broken through that ceiling and realized how much you were actually making and how well you were actually doing?
I think naturally it just kind of happened, but like my brain didn't want it to. My initial like instincts is I wanted to go back to like my family. Like I wanted to go back to my roots, where I'm from. And in some ways I love my family, I love my roots, but in other ways I wanted to become more. And I think naturally making that much money in a summer, in the first few weeks, realizing that, it just unlocked naturally the potential that I had within myself. And the confidence that I gained, like my inward confidence, just began to show to everyone in my life.
Through the roof. It's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a pretty consistent theme with high achievers specifically, is like the limiting beliefs don't necessarily hold you back as you're succeeding. They almost, they just get shattered naturally by your performance. So your paradigm is what changes them, right? And we talk a lot about the power of a paradigm from the 7 Habits stuff, but whereas I don't see that being the case in people that really struggle with those limiting beliefs. It's because they're not really committed. And so therefore the limiting beliefs become an excuse that they're constantly fighting against, but almost as validation of how they feel about themselves. Like, oh, I'm not gonna sell anyway because my parents, didn't teach me about money, or I have a scarcity mindset about money. So, but because that's all stems from the fact that they're not committed to go succeed in the first place. But whereas with you were, and so therefore just the natural success of the commitment itself broke the limiting beliefs because of how it changed your perception.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And it's a little bit maybe of a not very clear idea, but
yeah, no,
Makes
I
sense.
think that's really clear.
Sweet. Okay, so now you finish your summer, you make 6 figures your first year, and you decided to come back and be a team leader with us the following year. What was the most challenging part about now having to coach other people to be successful?
Yeah, so I think the hardest part was the first year of team leading. I didn't realize exactly what I wanted. So I didn't have a very clear and defined vision.
Okay.
And I knew like I wanted to help people become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
But the hardest part for me was portraying that to others. And then like actually getting them to be behind my purpose or my vision for what I wanted.
Okay. And what about that felt different or was different than like convincing someone on a doorstep to sign up for a service with you?
Yeah, so the people we signed up on the doors were strangers. So if I like
that's an interesting
if I said something dumb or I was like weird, next door. But
on to the next one.
These people are like actually in my life. Like I really care about these people.
Yeah.
And I want to see them succeed. So like I want to make sure that I'm saying everything carefully. And I think, I was a little too careful. And that was hard because I wanted people to succeed just as I've been succeeding.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite know how to portray that to them.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a very common thing I find with like really empathic, like kind, loving people who are also ambitious. It's that transition from like, okay, you're a killer on the doors, signing people up. And I'm not saying that you're not empathetic to people on the doors. We just talked about how you are, but it is a difficult thing to say, all right, I don't want to like ruin a relationship if I push someone too hard to like come do this job with me, basically.
Right.
That's more of a tricky, mindset to have to overcome at first, at least. But
yeah. And I think it changed this year, honestly. Do you care if I talk about that?
No, I want to know. It's like, so how is that different now?
Yeah.
Because you're killing it right now.
Well, thank you. But I think the biggest change for me this year is I know exactly what I want. I have a clear vision, not only for myself, but for the people, each and every individual on my team. I have no doubt in my mind that the best option for someone this summer would be to sell with me. I just don't have any other doubts because I know who I am. I know how much I've grown in these past few years.
Yeah.
And I don't want to boast about myself. It's
Do it.
You need to boast about yourself more, Spencer.
It's things
So
that
I'm tired of you being so humble but
Yeah,
so
dude.
good at the same time.
well, it's things that
kidding.
I've developed in these past few years that have helped me to become the best version of myself. And I'm not there yet, but I feel like I'm at the point now where I can really be a tool to help others to influence their lives.
Yeah.
And to completely change their lives.
That's
and that's
awesome.
what I'm passionate about.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's it feels like you have that same definiteness of purpose that you had going into your first summer.
Yeah.
As a leader now.
Yeah, no, I liken that to the first, like where I'm at right now. I feel like have you heard of like the S curve?
Oh yeah.
So first year team leading, I was at the very bottom of the S curve, but I feel like I'm starting to really grow because I know who I am as a person. I have complete confidence in the skills that I've gained, and I have confidence that I will help whoever works for me or works with me.
Isn't it crazy how like once that confidence is achieved, it's really easy actually to convince people to come to your cause when you have their best interest in mind. And we've already established that like that's probably the easiest part for you, right? Is having someone's best interest at heart because of how easily you care about people and the natural like attention to them and curiosity about their lives. So that's the easiest part. But like then once you really have confidence in your ability to help those people and you own that at a deep level, it's like very easy to convince people to do what's in their best interest, and in this case being working with you,
Yeah.
Whereas when you're missing one or the other, either you don't care as much about people, or when you're missing on the other side, like not quite as confident in your ability to help them, then it's really hard to actually convince people. It feels awkward. You don't really want to. What is that quote? It's like when commitment is achieved, divine providence moves in your favor. So, and it just starts feeling easy, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that with how well you've recruited, Isaac, for your teams? Like you're actually committed and just things just seem like they start happening.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like just when you're committed and like you lean into your role as that person and you're like, you own it. Yeah, things just start to happen. I mean, you visualize exactly what you want. And I think Spencer hit it right on the head is like the biggest difference right now, you know, that you've seen, that I've even seen, is that you're just way more clear on what it is that you want for you, but also for the people that you bring in. And you're like, you may not even know those people yet, but you know exactly how you're going to help them, which is sweet.
Yeah. And I actually care about the helping them because I genuinely love that person, you know?
Yeah. And like the type of person that Spencer will always find a way to win. So like even last year at this time, he was still recruiting well. Like he'll always find a way to win, but the way that Spencer is carrying himself now and like the type of person that he's bringing in is completely different, and the way he's going about recruiting. So like, what are some, like, if you were to give advice to another team leader that was in your shoes your first summer, so if you were to give advice to a first year team leader, what would you say so that they could avoid some of the mistakes that you feel like you made?
I really had like very little expectations coming into being like a team leader. And so I feel like I just kind of followed what you were doing or followed what like Hayden was doing. And that's really it. That's what I tried to do. And I tried to follow it to a T. But I think the advice I'd give to a first year team leader is figure out what works for you. Like for me, last year I would spend hours every day literally just messaging people online, and that was
contacting.
My way to recruit, and I hated it. It was not exciting for me. So this year what I've been doing is finding exciting things that I enjoy and incorporating that into meeting new people that align with the values that I have.
I love that.
Which is so interesting because like both of those things work, but like I feel like Tim always says this, is like, or at least he's been saying it a lot lately. It's like whatever is exciting to you, whatever makes sense to you, will work the best. So like I feel like you've figured out what works for you. You figured out some of your strengths, which are like meeting new people and making connections quickly, and then you're leaning into those strengths.
And it's backed by this like really powerful determination. It's backed by the strength of commitment that when that happens, it's like actually probably anything would work really well that you did and decided to do because of how the level of confidence that you have in your ability to help people and your desire to. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is like one of my favorite things is to cold contact people for recruiting, or was in the past at least. But that's because that was like the first thing that I tried when I was really committed. And so it ended up working because I was just so utterly determined to find people to sell with me and to be a part of my team, you know?
Yeah, I remember when I started, it was just like everything, all the time. And it was like always on my mind. And I know Spencer's probably the same way, but it's just like always.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah, it's a movie.
It is a movie, yeah. The other night, I texted Tim and I was like, hey, what's a rated R movie that I should watch on VidAngel right now? And he's like, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. That's what the movie's called. It's the strangest film I've ever.
It was couples on my team this last year. It was their favorite movie ever. They like watch it all the time.
I don't even know what movie we're talking about.
I won't even repeat it. You don't watch it. Brain cells will die watching that.
It's funny.
It's so weird. Anyway,
Spencer, so you went from making like 45, 50 grand a year, and then over the last couple of years you made like almost 300 grand. How has Moxie been a catalyst for you in changing your life?
You're catching on quick, dude. Let's go.
I think Moxie and the leadership within Moxie, you guys have helped me understand my potential. I think I always knew that I was a little different from people. I worked harder than people. But I think Moxie was the catalyst and was the way to help me actually step out of my comfort zone and achieve what I wanted to achieve. So yes, it's scary, like committing to do something that you've never done before and not really knowing a whole lot about it.
Sure.
But I took that leap of faith and I completely trusted in what you were saying. And Moxie's provided incredible trainings, you know, Hayden, incredible trainings. And I went from zero sales experience to like being one of the best salesmen in the company. And I think that comes from the trainings and how I actually applied them.
Yeah.
And you, like you said, like you put trust in the people that you were following, and then you applied to a T everything that they were telling you.
Yeah.
Because you had 100% trust, you were 100% committed. And that's what helped you go from making 45, 50 grand a year
in a factory job.
Yeah, like tripling your income in less than 2 years.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And you're what? Like, are you 24?
23.
You're not even 24
23?
yet. Yeah. That's so sweet.
If you're trying to find out if someone's going to be like a really killer sales rep or make a lot of money, you ask, what's something that you've struggled with in your life that you've not been as good at other people, like naturally, but you still were the best at? So like for you, you're saying, self-proclaimed, I'm not very smart or whatever you said. I wouldn't agree with that, by the way. But you're valedictorian. So just having people say like, yeah, I wasn't the most athletic, but I was an all-star athlete or something like that.
That's cool.
It's like something that you don't feel you're naturally good at, but that you've been the best at in your life relative to other people. You can, if someone answers it that way in anything, it's like, yeah, it's game over. They'll do super well.
Yeah, that's sweet. And I think it's just,
like that.
It's also like in part, I think we downplay how Moxie or like the sales program that you and Tim and Jason have built out help us do that. I think a lot of guys after a while, they start making a lot of money and they start to feel like,
oh, I've been this person my whole life.
Yeah, like, oh, I've always been able to do this.
It's like maybe you had some seeds of the ambition.
Sure.
But like the gratitude for the vehicle and for the people that have, sacrificed a lot to build it the way that it is and make it as stable as it is. Like, it's always very healthy to have, which is why I really love working with you guys, frankly, because, my worries don't come from whether or not I'm working with good people. So yeah, that doesn't keep me up at night, which is great. You're just coming off of your second sales season of, you made 160K this year, and we're very successful the summer before. You made 100 grand your first year. What, I know the answer to this, which is why I'm asking, but what could you describe to me a little bit about like your motivation during the hard times? Like what's the thing that just really kept you going and made you tick when it was difficult and challenging?
Yeah. So I think going back to what I've said in other conversations with you, when I was on the doors and it was hard and I knew my goal was my first summer, so let's just sell 2 a day. It was one.
It's so funny because it's like so low for you, right?
Yeah. It was one.
I remember the first day you got, what was your best day in Atlanta?
I think it was 10 or 11.
I wanted to say the first day you sold 8 is like when I found out that your goal was only to sell 2 a day. It's very early in the summer. I'm like, dude.
Well, I didn't really. I wanted to make 50,000, and I was like, okay, two a day, let's do it.
Yeah,
you made that like a month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back in the back of my mind, it was always one for Izzy, one for Aiden, one for my wife, one for my son.
That's so cool.
So down to like the deepest core of who I am, I wanted to not only become better as a person, but I wanted to help my family do the same. And so down to my core, I knew that was my deepest motivation. Like I sincerely love my family, and I'm gonna get emotional talking about it. And I knew I was doing it not only for myself but for them.
Yeah.
And so all of the hard moments, all of the hard days, like
knocking in the rain, knocking in the heat.
Yeah, it all didn't matter because I knew that I was gonna do it.
Yeah.
I knew I was gonna do it for Izzy and for Aiden.
I love it.
And it gets me emotional because I am sincerely grateful for, the trainings that I was provided, for the leadership that I had, but I'm also insanely grateful for them.
Yeah.
For the motivation that they've given me.
That's amazing. Dude, I love that. That's exactly what I was thinking when I asked that question. That always stood out to me. It's like one for Izzy, one for Aiden.
Yeah.
Every day. Until you realize that that's very low, so it's like 4 for Izzy, 4 for Aiden.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
5 for Izzy, 5 for Aiden today. But that's I've shared this with you as well. It's having those kind of like outward expressions of your inward motivations. I think is really important, and that was yours. I used to take a pen and write Sarah's name on my hand every day, and I would just say like, I'm not going home today without 5 sales, and I would just cross one off every time.
That's awesome.
I would cross one letter of her name off every time. Yeah, and that got me through some really tough days where I didn't want to get out of the car and knock. Just like rookies ask me all the time, like, hey, you probably never deal with this where you don't want to get out of the car. I'm like,
yeah,
bro, every day I don't want to get out of the car, but I freaking do it because I have really big reasons why succeeding that day matters. And that's what I would do. I would just like, if I had that written on my hand, and oftentimes like I'd go home, shower it off or whatever, but you'd still have some like ink on your hand because I didn't get all off. And it would remind me going into the next day, like, oh yeah, like I have something that I'm working for today, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's big. Yeah. Outward expression of like inward motivations, I think is really, really powerful.
Spencer, you've made over 6 figures each summer that you've come and worked with me. How has our sales environment helped you in your success?
Down to the core, our culture is based on becoming the best version of yourself. So it's been backed by core values of integrity, gratitude, making and keeping commitments. So that really is what I was aligned with and who I wanted to become. I wanted to become the best version of myself, and I wanted to become just a really good person. And I think focusing on those things, and also focusing on working really hard, training really hard, that's really what helped me to, fortunately and gratefully make as much as I did. And, it's not me, it's we. It's what we were able to do because of the incredible leadership, because of the incredible culture. And it's just a trickling effect right now. And that's what I'm doing with my guys. And I know that's what you're still doing. And it's empowering. It honestly is really exciting to be a part of an organization that cares so deeply about these core values.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because like I've been in different sales cultures, like I've worked in them, and like I think I like 12x'd my income when I came over to Moxie
versus
the other place. Yeah, and a huge reason for that was the culture. Like I felt aligned with the people that I was with, and that's what helped me make way more money than I could have elsewhere, because like I cared about the things that the company cared about, that the people I was with cared about. And so that was like, I didn't have to worry about that. And so I could put all of my energy and focus into making the most money that I possibly could and focusing on becoming the best version of myself. And so like money isn't the first thing that I ever talk about with people. And it's not been until recently that I've been like more open about how much money I make here. And really it's just like the money talks for itself, but like when you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, the money is just a byproduct of that. And I think that's what's huge about our culture is like we focus on becoming the best version of yourself, focusing on true principles. And that's what helps people like you and, so many others. I can list off like 10 people right now. Yeah. Dozens of people that come to mind that have just made the most because of their focus on becoming the best versions of themselves. So that's pretty sweet.
Earnings is always downstream from culture, and that's agnostic. It's neither good nor bad. So it's like if everyone on your team is not making enough income for themselves to justify the work they're putting in or whatever, that's downstream from culture. It all starts there. And culture is made up of people, and the people are made up of, it's like the choices that you make, the values that you hold dear. So when you can get a group of people who are bought into a culture that naturally produces results in every aspect of life, money will obviously come, and it'll come in abundance, high quantities.
Well, it's crazy, man, because like the culture I was a part of was people wanted, all people were focused on was the money. And at the time I was like, oh yeah, there are some people here that are like making good money, I thought. But now I look back and I'm like, the focus here, obviously money is important, but we care way more about who we are as people, and the people around me are making way more money than anybody I was working with. In fact, some of the people, myself, but like I know 2 people that also have come and worked for Moxie that were on that same sales team, and I'm sure they've like probably at least doubled, if not 5x or 10x their income compared to what they were making there. So
sure. Oh yeah.
Anyways, I just wanted to ask that last question. So
that's good. It's cool to watch. So it dawned on me that like we're like 3 generations of sales being on each other's sales teams. So like Isaac was your team leader. I was Isaac's team leader. And it's why I bring this up is because my goal has always been that the people that work with me do everything that I've done, but much faster. And half the time is what I've kind of always said. Isaac's well on track to make $1 million a year in half the time that I did. And I would venture to bet that you are in half the time that Isaac is by applying the principles of like how we teach to do this job in general, but leadership specifically, and again, that's really cool. There's a lot of things that you can do to provide for your family, making really good money, but it really is just downstream from culture and from your character, who you are as a person.
Yeah. I think something for me when I'm recruiting people, when I'm telling them why they should work for me, I'm here to build leaders, just as you both have built leaders.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about that. It makes me insanely happy to see people become the best versions of themselves and just turn into absolute units and just to turn into leaders. So that's really what I love doing. And it's been a pleasure to see you guys be quick to observe how you guys have done that and try and apply that in my own way. Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Yeah, this is really
Appreciate
good,
it.
man.
Thanks.
Too easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. It's too easy.